The nest surged through space at immense speeds. An asteroid belt got closer through the window of the helm, all to get away from the monster chasing the ship by itself with its wings. The people remained locked away in various rooms. The celestial turrets turned to face the back of the ship, while Abolesque stared at a holoscreen pointed at the back of the nest. The screen showed the monster keeping pace with the nest, dumbfounding the Empyrean. He looked at the dials of the central console and shook his head. "We're moving at Mach 50, and this thing can still keep up," bemoaned Abolesque. "We're not dead yet, brother," said Ocestron. "Simics, how long until we can warp? To avoid damage, we must go through the asteroid belt before utilizing the warp drive." The I confirmed. Ocestron slammed his upper arm on the terminal and groaned. "So we have to cross 10,000 light years before we can avoid this guy. If you wish to ram into an asteroid at 100 times the speed of light, I can do that," Simic said facetiously. "Don't worry about it, we can handle it," Abolesque said. "Simics, keep the turrets ready. We're going to use it later." "Understood." The nest entered the Ecaidin belt, a colossal array of asteroids, some hollowed from mining, others barely picked. The Ark ship maneuvered around the rocks and debris, while the monster kept speed with the vessel. Celestial cannons emerged from the nest and fired laser beams at the monster, but it conjured a putrid green shield and blocked the deadly beams. "Your cancerous light is of no consequence," he scorned. By the 2000th light year, the nest came across the large asteroid Mondstadt, now abandoned and hollowed. The celestial cannons cut the once sacred rock into pieces, and as the nest blitzed past, the fragments surged at immense speeds around the area, making a storm of debris. By the 5000th light year, Ecaidin was strapped to a large table in the stainless steel infirmary. Delos, a doctor, and his group of nurses tried to aid him and performed a medical scan on his arm. As the scanning light washed his withering arm, Delos looked at the holographic screen, feeding him information. Dr. Delos scratched his head as he read. "Accelerated necrosis and radioactive decay of supernatural origin." He looked up at Ecaidin. The withering has spread to his entire arm and threatened to spread to all of him. "Doctor, we have to do something," a nurse exclaimed. Delos looked frantically and saw a plasma cutter on the table beside him. He retrieved the tools and turned it on. The bright blue blade sound echoed throughout the room. "Here we go." Ecaidin screamed as the saw went cleanly through his arm. Blood, agony, and a severed arm fell on the ground. The nurses held Ecaidin in their arms, as Delos quickly gave him a bottle of thick pneuma, then a docking cap on his stump to stop him from bleeding out. Delos and the nurses stared at the withered arm, and covered their mouths from the odor of the limb. "Let's get out of here," he said as the nurses carried Ecaidin out of the hospital ward. Delos slammed a button on the way out that sealed the door. By the 7000th light year, the nest was nearly out of the solar system. Asteroid fragments littered the air and was blown back by the force and speed of the ship's exhaust. Abolesque stared at the coming rocks as Ocestron checked the holographic screens and sensors. "Just a few more light years and we should be fine," said Abolesque. "Well, let's keep our eyes open, brother." Ocestron's eyes glowed at the sight of the monster hot on their tail. "Oh, this is not happening." Abolesque shook his head and sighed. "Simics, activate the photonic thrusters." "Yes, Empyrean Abolesque." Within the generator room, a section of the prismarine panels shifted, opened, allowing the light and heat of the celestial maw to surge through the back and engulf the monster in a pillar of celestial light and heat that burnt it to atoms. "The demon has been reduced to nothingness," Simics confirmed. "Don't get cocky. Once we get out of the belt, activate the warp drive," commanded Abolesque. By the 10,000th light year, the nest passed the last asteroid and blipped into its FTL. Speed so fast it looked like teleportation, but the vessel surged through space-time beyond the speed of light. The black vacuum became a prismatic sky as the ship went through space. Abolesque fell to his throne and took deep breaths. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest. "Okay, we're good now." "Indeed. But we should think about what comes next," Ocestron suggested. "Our main priority should be refueling and recharging," Abolesque said. "Simics, how's our power and fuel?" "Our propellant is at 30% and our energy is at 40%. Simics made a holoscreen showing a pair of moons orbiting a large planet. "I suggest stopping at these moons. We'll be able to refuel completely there until we find a new planet." "Agreed. Yes, that sounds fine." "Status on Ecaidin?" "Ecaidin has had his infected limb amputated and is expected to make a full recovery." Good to hear." The ship exited the warp, floating above a large blue moon outside the Triangulum galaxy, the old galaxy, once a glittering bastion of life. that the Ecaidin spent thousands of years building into a utopia was now dim and decrepit, ruined by the swarm. The brothers sat in silence for their ruined homes and all their kind had built. Simics, begin refueling Wheelum, come up with something later. Abelesque said, understood. The hatch opened and ice began to float into the vessel through a narrow tunnel of gravitons.